Everyone. My name is Dafna Lender. I am here today. I'm coming from Chicago, and on this beautiful day, I received a book, my book, Integrative Attachment Family Therapy, and I'm very excited to share about it with you. This is the culmination of about 24 years of doing therapy with parents and children, really difficult children. That was the beginning of my career, was working with kids in foster care and adoption, kids with a lot of attachment issues, and then moving over just to the interest of attachment and what it means to have a secure attachment and what it means to work with a parent and child together and see the parent and the child as they're equally responsible. We have to work as much with the parent as with the child. So the thing that people come up with a lot in therapy is that their clients are bringing the child for therapy thinking that the therapist is going to focus on the child. Well, I focus on the relationship, and that's a shock to parents. They think that they are going to be sort of in the background, maybe supporting, but they're not aware that they're going to be front and center, and that I'm going to be asking them to change somewhat. So after doing so many different kinds of therapy, trying a lot of therapies and many different kinds of clients, not just adoptive and foster kids and families, but went on to work. I've been working with bio families with children with diverse neurodevelopmental needs in different contexts, whether it's residential or in-home. The culmination is I'm figured out and decided on what are the most effective tools, and I put them in this book. And it also includes stories, which I think is the best way to learn. Okay, so I just wanted to see if people had questions, and so that I can share a little bit of the content in an Ask Me Anything format. Happy to take questions from viewers about what's in the book. Okay, so the first question here, how does IAFT differ from other treatment approaches when it comes to working with children who are described as defiant or uncooperative? All right, so I am going to essentially eliminate those words, defiant or uncooperative, with the parents when they're describing the children from the beginning. I'm going to say, I got you. A parent might say, he's really uncooperative. And I'll say, hey, you know what? I want to slow down here a second and think about uncooperative, because what I'm thinking from my point of view is there's a reason why a child may not be able or may not cooperate in the way that we're expecting him to. And what I want to break that down and find out what's underneath, because no child is uncooperative on purpose just because that's his temperament, or he's trying to see what he can get away with, or because he wants to have a good time. So that's the core. I gave you, I think, indication not only of what I believe is underneath and how that's different, but also how I would intervene from the beginning with parents who characterize their children as defiant. And then if the parents say, that's not how I see things, I think he is doing it to get away with something and trying to take an unfair advantage, I'll say, all right, let's talk about that. And then my dialogue with them is also going to be about how they experience a feeling in their body when their child is uncooperative. They might feel rejected. They might feel angry. They have feelings of perhaps hopelessness. So very soon I show them that the reaction that they're having is also about them and possibly related to things that they learned in their childhood. And so really just to help show that uncooperative is both something that's in the child underneath and he's trying to say something, as well as what's going on with you, mom, what's going on with you, dad, and how do we bridge that gap? Okay. I'll have a next question. Thanks. Okay. how does polyvagal theory contribute to our understanding of how to regain connection in the therapy room? Okay, great question. So, there are a ton of developmental theories and concepts, like whether it's the NMT, like the neurosequential model of therapeutics, or the window of tolerance. There's so many different models for understanding the brain and our reactions. And I chose polyvagal theory in this book. Thinking, studied them all, studied many of them, really love them. They helped me. Polyvagal theory helped me. It just helps me a lot. And it helps me conceptualize how we feel in our body. And I just find it to be really, really accessible and powerful as a tool for both understanding how we're reacting to our kids, and also how our kids are reacting in sessions or in everyday life. And it has been proven very useful in my clinical practice to do this kind of framework and help parents using polyvagal theory. Okay, so what I do, polyvagal theory has to do with us getting in tune with our reactions, especially as it relates to our children, when we either collapse and withdraw because we feel hopeless, we feel like giving up, we're lonely, we feel rejected, and we feel ineffective. We get into that collapse disconnection stage or depressed with our parent, our child, or we might get into more of that mobilization where we're trying to be bossy, trying to be controlling, we're aggravating, we're one-upping our child. And that is also a state of the nervous system. And that's what I want to talk to the parents about, that there's 3 states. I want to, the third one being the more, the social, the connected state, which is the ventral vagal of polyvagal theory, where you feel like you're cooperative, your child is cooperative, you're feeling like you have influence, you feel like you're able to connect with your child, and that you kind of know what's going on with them, and you feel like competent and good. So to me, it's imperative to teach parents about their physiologic reactions, and then we have to teach them self-compassion, which also is really a component of polyvagal theory, because you have to understand your nervous system is responding. It's not you doing it on purpose. It's not you being an immoral parent, or a terrible parent, you shouldn't have had kids, or this is hopeless, I'll always repeat my same mistakes, and then, which another part of polyvagal theory that I really love, it talks about the social engagement system, which is a very important tool of the way that we are and the way we communicate non-verbally to transmit to the child that you're safe with me, I want to be connected with you, you're not in trouble, I'm open to you, and I'm regulated myself. And that's demonstrated through the voice and facial expressions, eye contact, gestures. Okay. And so we have to teach the parents about the social engagement system, both their own social engagement system and how they come off to their children, but we too have to demonstrate that. So to me, polyvagal theory has also been very helpful to help me be just aware of my nonverbals. And that really helps a client to feel safe, whether it's the parent or the child. There's just so much in polyvagal theory that I love, and that's why I chose to use this as one of the bases for the book. Okay, we'll have a next question. Yeah. Okay. How do you engage with the parents in IAFT if they want to focus on therapy to be with their child, or maybe they face logistical issues with the time commitment involved? Fair enough. Okay. And first of all, how do you engage with the parents in IAFT if they want to focus the therapy on their child? Okay. Well, the first thing I do is just to be really clear about what I'm selling. What am I offering? I write it on my website. I give it in the first email. I said, this is a family therapy from an attachment perspective. What that means is that we're going to be seeing each other as just the adults, with a frequency of at least every 4th session is a parent session, and sometimes more frequent. That I'm going to be asking you to change as much as focusing on your child to change, and that some of the time we're going to talk about what happened to you as a child, because that's from attachment theory. It really influences how you parent. Well, people might have reactions to that. They might say, that's not what I'm looking for. And I'm going to say, okay, I will happily refer you to a different person who does maybe more client-centered or has worked with a child alone. But this is what I find helpful. Okay. So some people may be deterred from that, but the majority of the people that I experience have already tried different kinds of therapies where the focus has been more either the child alone or the focus on the parent, on the therapist and child relationship. And it didn't cut it. It didn't make enough change, or made a little bit of change, but not enough. So if a parent is not interested in sort of trying this out, it may mean they should try a different therapy first, and then they might return to me. So I found that I thought originally that I was going to have less clients, and people wouldn't want to engage in this. But actually, I found that it's a niche, and I've gotten a lot of referrals. Now, about the time commitment, I think if you plan up front, and I do my parent sessions on Zoom, so they don't need to do it in the and get a babysitter. I think that really helps a lot. That's what I found to be useful. Beyond that, yeah, it is a time commitment, and it has to be, it's as much a time commitment to bring your child to therapy. You still have to drive them and, block out that hour, even if you're sitting in your car waiting. So the time commitment to me is it's the same as if your child was going to therapy by themselves. I just think that it's more an emotional commitment. And are you ready for it? And are you prepared for it? And did you get information about it ahead of time so you can sort of digest that information? So a lot of it is about telling and explaining to the parents what's involved. I think we have time for one or two more questions. All right. Why is it so important to adopt the PACE attitude, which stands for playful, accepting, curious, and empathic, with the IIFT approach? So PACE comes from Dan Hughes, he's the creator of dyadic developmental psychotherapy. I am a trainer in dyadic developmental psychotherapy, and he created this wonderful acronym. It's an attitude. And it is that when children are talking to parents and they're saying things that might be hard or challenging, like, you never buy me anything, you love my brother more than me, or how come I always get blamed, or things like that, that parents are, of course, prone to, starting to lecture and discipline and give reasons and rationales like, no, I don't love your brother more than you do. It's just that, he has different needs and he's younger. And anyway, you have a ton more stuff than him. And, you're a lot older. So why are you saying that? That kind of explanations. And what they need to know is that underneath these statements, these provocative statements that the child is saying, is a feeling. They're expressing a need. They're expressing there's a motivation or a wish. And if you respond with acceptance, hey, I hear you. Thanks a lot for telling me what's on your mind, or I get it. I got you. Empathy. Oh, wow, that would really suck if you thought I loved your brother more than you. A curiosity question. Hey, I wonder, how long you felt that way, or when did this start, or when did, what makes you think that? Okay. So the idea is that when you respond with acceptance, empathy, and curiosity, your child is going to reveal more of what they feel underneath. It's not that they feel necessarily that their brother gets more than them. They might feel left out. They might feel rejected. And we want to be able to hear that. So PACE is a way of being able to first address what the feeling is underneath before we start giving our side, our reasons, our rationalizations. That's going to really help with the connection. A child wants to feel heard. Even if you're not going to give him the extra stuff that he's demanding, or you're not going to change anything in the house about the rules, what they're longing for is to feel deeply connected and with their parent and understood. And this PACE is just a fantastic mechanism for doing that. Okay. So I'm thinking that this question is going to be the last one. Okay, we're going to take this last question, and thank you for the others who may have put a question in and I won't have time for. So what's your advice for working with parents who are unaware of or who minimize how much they have been affected by their own childhood trauma? Really, really good question. If they're unaware, so one of the first things I do is I tell them about the fact that their attachment history is 50% of this equation. And I talk to them and ask them questions about their own attachment history, and the questionnaire is in the book. And then I have a way of listening for the answers that they might be saying, oh, my childhood was happy. There was nothing wrong. My parents were really nice, but they have like no evidence. I have no memories or any kind of examples to really back up what they're saying. Plus a lot of other ways in which people respond, maybe by avoiding the question or just perhaps maybe even ridiculing me and saying, yeah, you know what, you psychologists are all the same or something. Idealizing their parents, things like that will give me a sense of what they're not willing to address. And then there's ways that I find to be able to bring in some of this. Hey, you know, you said that your parents never had to discipline you because you there was never a need, there was always harmony, and you didn't do anything wrong. How come anyway? Because all children need to be disciplined at some point. And so I'm wondering, how was it that you learned to be such a good boy so early? And the parent, and that starts getting them thinking, well, I always knew that I better be good because I didn't want to make my dad upset and disappointed at me. I'm like, oh, okay. So you learned really early on. Okay. So there must have been some really important signals that your dad gave you to let you know you need to kind of toe the line and behave. So I would go at it gradually, but it's okay if they're upset at me if I bring it up and suggest that this might be related to a conflict they have with their child. That anger is hiding the hurt, and that's underneath the surface. And I'm here to respond to them with pace too, and say, thanks for letting me know that you're upset at me. You feel like I'm blaming you. I really appreciate knowing what's on your mind. It's not that I'm blaming you. I think you're very courageous for coming here. It's just that my goal is to help us understand what's motivating your behavior when you get so upset at your child and yell at him, etc. Okay, so that's just a small example. All right, friends, I appreciate it so much that you came, and I'm happy to answer any more questions. My book is available online through Pessy and Amazon, and I am happy to interface in a lot of different ways. You can get in touch with me through my website, www.dafnalender.com. I hope you have a really good day or evening wherever you are in the world. Thanks so much for